Have you ever heard about the legend of Jenny, the Titanic cat? Among the 2,240 souls on board the ill-fated RMS Titanic, there was a less-known passenger who prowled the decks and alleyways. This passenger was Jenny, the ship's resident feline. Jenny was no ordinary passenger, nor was she a pampered pet like the few dogs that boarded the Titanic. She was a working cat, a ship cat to be precise. Her life before the Titanic was spent in Belfast, and her primary duty was to keep the ship's rat population under control. With a role as vital as any crew members, Jenny was allowed to roam the decks freely, hunting and patrolling with an air of feline authority. Her life aboard the ship was far from luxurious. Unlike the canine passengers who enjoyed first-class treatments, Jenny was a worker through and through. With no one to smuggle her into a lifeboat, as happened with two fortunate Pomeranians and a Pekingese, Jenny's story was presumed to have ended in tragedy. She was never found after the Titanic sank into the cold depths of the Atlantic. But as is often the case with stories related to the Titanic, the tale of Jenny is shrouded in legend and mystery. Stewardess Violet Jessop, who herself survived the disasters on board the Titanic, Olympic and Britannic, reported that Jenny gave birth to a litter of kittens in the early days of April 1912, just before the Titanic set sail for New York. Jenny had claimed a cozy corner in the galley where she and her newborns were cared for by an Irish stoker named Joseph Mulholland. In the midst of the tragedy, rumors surfaced that put a brighter spin on Jenny's voyage. According to one such rumor, Jenny had managed to transport her kittens to dry land, abandoning the ship at Southampton before it embarked on its maiden voyage. This act was seen as an ominous sign by some crew members. Though Jenny's story may not have had a happy ending, the legend that surrounds her is nothing short of extraordinary. Whether or not she truly foresaw the Titanic's fate, Jenny, the Titanic cat, remains an intriguing character in the ship's history. In April 1912, life aboard the Titanic took a turn for Jenny. This was not just an ordinary month for our feline heroine. The ship, still docked in Belfast, became the birthplace of a litter of kittens, brought into the world by none other than Jenny herself. Jenny, the ship cat, was not just a passenger on this grand vessel. She was an essential part of the ship's ecosystem, keeping the rat population under control. But with the arrival of her newborns, she assumed another role, a mother to a litter of kittens born on a ship destined to become a tragic legend. As the story goes, an Irish stoker named Joseph Mulholland, or Jim as some would call him, took a special interest in Jenny and her kittens. Mulholland, a man of hard work and little words, found a soft spot for the feline family. He cared for them, provided for them, and in return found companionship in the solitude of the ship's underbelly. Mulholland and Jenny shared a bond that transcended the boundaries of species. Their camaraderie was a glimpse of warmth and connection in the cold steel heart of the Titanic. Together, they turned a cozy corner of the galley into a haven for Jenny and her kittens. It was a small piece of the world that they could call their own. Their lives aboard the Titanic were simple yet fulfilling. Jenny, with her dual role of a rat catcher and a mother, was a beacon of resilience and courage. Mulholland, on the other hand, found solace in the company of Jenny and her kittens, a respite from the grueling routine of stoking the ship's furnaces. In the grand scheme of the Titanic's narrative, their story might seem insignificant, but sometimes it's the smallest tales that carry the most profound truths. As the Titanic prepared for its maiden voyage, Jenny, Mulholland, and the kittens were blissfully unaware of the fate that awaited them. Little did they know their lives were about to change drastically with the Titanic's maiden voyage. As the Titanic prepared for its first voyage, Jenny did something unusual. Just before the Titanic was set to sail from Belfast to Southampton, Jenny, the ship's resident feline, began to act out of character. Normally a ship cat through and through, she was accustomed to the hustle and bustle of life at sea. But this time, something seemed to be unsettling her. In the days leading up to the departure, Jenny was seen carrying her kittens off of the ship one by one. She moved them to dry land, leaving the majestic Titanic behind. This behavior was peculiar, as Jenny had just given birth on board and had claimed a cozy corner in the galley as her own. It seemed strange that she would suddenly abandon the warmth and safety of her nest. Among the crew, it was an Irish stoker named Joseph Mulholland, fondly known as Jim, who noticed Jenny's unusual behavior. He had a soft spot for Jenny and her kittens. often caring for them during his downtime. As he watched Jenny carry her last kitten ashore, he was struck by a sense of foreboding. Mulholland, a seasoned sailor, knew that sailors often regarded cats as symbols of good luck on ships. They believed that cats had a sixth sense for detecting disasters before they occurred. Seeing Jenny abandon the Titanic with her newborns was unsettling. He took it as a sign, a bad omen. Taking this omen to heart, Mulholland made a decision that defied logic. He chose not to board the Titanic for its maiden voyage. His fellow crew members were baffled by his decision. After all, the Titanic was deemed unsinkable. They saw no reason to fear. Unbeknownst to them, this decision would prove to be a lifesaver. Mulholland's instinct, fueled by Jenny's peculiar actions, saved him from the tragic fate that befell the Titanic. As for Jenny and her kittens, their fate remains shrouded in mystery, adding another intriguing chapter to the Titanic's legendary tale. A few days later, the unthinkable happened. The Titanic, dubbed the unsinkable ship, met its demise in the cold, harsh waters of the North Atlantic Ocean. It was a clear, moonless night on April 14, 1912. The Titanic, in all its grandeur, was making its maiden voyage from Southampton to New York City. Despite receiving several ice warnings, the ship was steaming full speed ahead. Suddenly, at around 11:40 p.m., an iceberg loomed in the ship's path. The crew attempted to maneuver around it, but it was too late. The iceberg struck the ship's starboard side, rupturing 5 of its 16 compartments. In a matter of 2 hours and 40 minutes, the Titanic, once a symbol of human ingenuity and power, was swallowed by the icy depths of the Atlantic. More than 1,500 lives were lost, making it one of the deadliest peacetime maritime disasters in history. Now, remember Jenny, the ship's cat, and her litter? They had seemingly vanished shortly before the ship's departure from Southampton. Joseph Mulholland, the Irish stoker who had cared for Jenny and her kittens, had also left the ship, heeding what he believed to be an ominous sign. As the ship sank, Mulholland was safe on dry land, his instincts having saved him from the tragic fate that befell many on board. Jenny's actions, interpreted as a warning, had proven to be eerily accurate. The feline had seemingly predicted the unsinkable ship's destiny. Despite the tragic loss of life, there were stories of survival, resilience, and heroism. The 3 canine passengers who had been smuggled into lifeboats survived, becoming a poignant footnote in the heartbreaking tale of the Titanic. But what of Jenny and her kittens? The fate of Jenny and her kittens remains shrouded in mystery, but their legend continues to inspire. Whether by pure instinct or some feline sixth sense, Jenny's actions potentially saved Mulholland's life and her kittens. Their story, while unconfirmed, adds an intriguing layer to the enduring saga of the Titanic. So, what became of Jenny, the Titanic cat? The tale of Jenny, the ship's cat who roamed freely on the Titanic, is one steeped in mystery and speculation. Unlike the 3 dogs who managed to escape the sinking ship, Jenny's fate remains largely unknown. However, the legend that surrounds her paints a fascinating picture. Jenny was not just any ordinary cat. As the ship's cat, she had a job to do, keeping the rat population at bay. But she was also a mother. In the early days of April 1912, while the Titanic was still docked in Belfast, Jenny gave birth to a litter of kittens. She found a warm corner in the ship's galley, and together with her newborns, they were cared for by an Irish stoker named Joseph Mulholland. As the Titanic prepared to leave Belfast for Southampton, the story takes an intriguing turn. It's said that Jenny began to move her kittens off the ship, one by one. This unusual behavior was noted by Mulholland, who interpreted it as a bad omen. He decided to heed this warning and chose not to board the Titanic for its maiden voyage. In the days that followed, the unthinkable happened. The Titanic struck an iceberg and sank, resulting in the loss of more than 2,000 lives. Jenny, the ship's cat, was never seen again. But the story of her uncanny foresight and the possible life she saved has lived on. Could it be that Jenny, a humble ship's cat, was able to foresee the disaster that the Titanic's builders and crew had deemed impossible? This is a question that will likely remain unanswered, but one thing is certain: the legend of Jenny, the Titanic cat, has captured the imagination of many. It's a tale filled with mystery, intrigue, and a hint of the supernatural. While Jenny's true fate may never be known, the legend of the Titanic's possibly psychic ship cat will continue to live on, captivating the hearts of Titanic fans worldwide.